It's Friday, August 21st. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and yesterday, Thursday, 20 August, we lost yet another King Air on what appears to be a loss of control on takeoff accident, this time in Rockford, Chicago's Rockford, Illinois airport. The sole occupant, the owner-operator of the King Air 200, was fatally injured. The aircraft involved in this accident was a Beech 200, Beech Super King Air 200, PT-6A powered, owned by 67-year-old owner-operator pilot Ron McAllister. In the FAA database, Ron is listed as a private pilot with a single engine and multi-engine rating and an instrument rating. According to his company website, he's got 40 years of aviation experience, started out in the Cessna 172 and worked his way up into the King Air. In the news reports, Ron is listed as an investment firm manager and also, ironically, the founder of the King Air Academy. The King Air Academy is a King Air training facility. Ron is the founder. He's not an instructor. He's not instructor pilot rated. According to initial reports, Ron was picking up the King Air following maintenance. The weather appeared to be fine at the time. The Rockford, Illinois airport, runway 19, eyewitness reports do indicate that the aircraft was taking off to the south. Initial news reports indicated that the aircraft was taking off on runway 1, but it looks like he was taking off on runway 19. That runway 19 is 8,200 feet long by 150 feet wide and has an airport elevation of just 742 feet. The crash occurred off to the left side of the runway at about the mid-field point, or about 4,300 feet down from the initial takeoff point. Preliminary eyewitness reports indicate that the aircraft did take off and did achieve some altitude before losing control to the left. Looking at the pictures of the crash site, it looks like the aircraft suffered an extremely violent cartwheel maneuver to the left. So once the aircraft took off, it then veered off to the left. By the time it hit the ground, it was in about a knife edge position, looking at the ground marks, and cartwheeling to a stop, and then catching fire. It took the crews about 10 minutes to put out the fire. Looking at the aircraft on the ground, it appears that in the cartwheel, the structure failed. The wings busted off right outboard of the engines. Both engines were separated from the airframe. The tail was busted off of the airframe, and part of the nose of the aircraft was separated as well in this violent cartwheel maneuver. Being a privately owned King Air 200 operated under Part 91, we don't know what sort of recording devices may be available to accident investigators to help them solve this accident. Coming out of maintenance raises a lot of issues, so accident investigators are going to be looking closely at the logbooks, interviewing all the mechanics that worked on the aircraft, finding out exactly what sort of work was being done on the aircraft at that time. They'll need to determine if both engines were producing power or if the left engine had lost power. Remember, the King Air, the left engine is considered the critical engine, and there's plenty of YouTube videos out there explaining why the left engine is the critical engine on a King Air. Basically because of propeller rotation and P factor and torque, if you lose the left engine, it does produce a little bit more of a yawing motion than if you lose the right engine. They'll also need to look at the checklist use and procedures. checklists are there to prevent such things as the possibility of leaving a control gust lock in place and not having the controls free on the airplane. Also, when you do your control check, especially after maintenance, you need to make sure that if the flight controls were worked on at all, you need to be very careful to make sure that the flight controls are rigged correctly. A misrigged or a backwards aileron system is almost impossible to recover from as a pilot, but we have no idea if any of this was the case in this accident or if they were even working on these systems. But they've got to rule everything out before they can figure out what actually happened here. But if this was another loss of control due to a loss of thrust on takeoff, we've got to continue to ask ourselves, how is our training going for these sort of situations? Are we realistically training ourselves enough in full motion simulators on these aircraft to simulate an engine failure in the second segment of climb? In other words, once you're up and away from the ground, then lose an engine in a surprise fashion. That is, you're not forewarned about it before you get the simulated emergency in the simulator. Are we realistically training ourselves well enough to handle these situations? So these are some of the questions investigators will be looking at. We'll keep you posted if we get more information on this. We've been very busy here locally with the local fire situation. I have no information on the loss of the helicopter here the other day while fighting fires here in California. I'll see if I can get, if you have any information to share with me on that, please share that with me. The only thing I know is that it was this well-respected pilot's first season of aerial firefighting with helicopters. Regarding the FedEx flight with the landing gear problem in Los Angeles, all's well that ends well. He got it, landed it perfectly on centerline. One of the pilots injured his foot on the emergency egress. I assume he used the ropes to come out of the cockpit. Check with Victor at Vass Aviation. He's already got an excellent video showing all the radio work that went into that emergency and all the professionalism used by that crew in bringing that aircraft, that emergency, to a successful conclusion. See if Petter over at Mentor Pilot has something also on that. I probably won't have time to get to that particular situation. On my another personal note, if you haven't already heard, I did get my first class medical back on a special issuance, and the airlines have tracked me down and I'm going to have to eventually go back to work here. So I did put in for the 787 FO position, and we'll see how long it takes them to find me a slot in the training to return to the 787. I chose the 787 over the 777 because the 787 is flying more of the routes. They're retiring the 777 as this downturn in the economy. Typically, airlines favor the more economical aircraft. They can lose less money per hour with a 787 than they can with a Boeing 777. So the future's with the newer aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and take that training now. And besides, I'm looking forward to yet another type rating, a new training, and a new aircraft. And looking forward to learning about all the latest technical advancements in the Boeing 787. So as we get more information on all that, I'll have an update on the California fire situation here for you soon. Thanks again for your support of this channel over on Patreon that makes this possible. See you here.